Hello, everybody. This is Kxo Radio AM 1230. Once again with Mickey Dale, the voice of the Imperial Tigers, for our weekly recap and forecast of what's going to be happening this week in high school football. Hello, Mickey.
Hi, Kurt. Boy, it was a big weekend last weekend. Another big one coming up this weekend. So a real treat for Valley football fans.
Absolutely.
Last week, the key matchup in the Imperial Valley League was played at Imperial at Shimamoto Simpson Stadium as the Tigers played host to the Brawley Wildcats. The Wildcats came into the game with a 7-1 record. Imperial was unbeaten at the time at 8-0. The first half lived up to the hype, too. It was 14-14 at intermission as each team scored 2 touchdowns. The Tigers used a pair of Jaden Ayala scoring passes to Gio Robles and Darren Wesso, while the Wildcats countered with 2 quarterback keepers by Matthew Gutierrez to tie it up. The third quarter was another game as the Wildcats stormed out after intermission, scoring 28 unanswered points and going on to claim a 49-28 victory. Gutierrez scored 2 more rushing touchdowns and hit Sergio Garcia for another score. Garcia would be a key to the Wildcat offense as he caught 3 passes for 77 yards, had that touchdown, but he also rushed 6 times for 184 yards. Now, he came into the game having rushed only 6 times all season long combined for 31 yards. And there goes 184 last Friday night. It was just amazing in the game. Alec Valdez blasted over from 3 yards out to complete the 28 unanswered points in the third quarter. A pick 6 by Tiger Samuel Rubalcaba gave the Tigers hope early in the fourth quarter, but the Wildcats would counter with a touchdown run by Matthew Moreno just a minute and a half later to pad their lead to 49-21. The Tigers rounded out the scoring with a third scoring pass of the night by Ayala, this time to Brandon Felix, but was too little, too late for Imperial. And both teams now enter the final week of the regular season with identical 8-1 records. The other game in the Imperial Valley League last week was Southwest at Kxo, and the Bulldogs earned their first league win of the season, coming away with a 35-0 win. Junior Andre Lopez has just been huge for the Bulldogs on offense the last couple of games. He scored 3 touchdowns and rushed for 154 yards in the game to lead the Bulldogs as he continues to key the offense late in the season. The week before was 144 yards against the Central Spartans, so he's gained just a fraction under 400 yards in the last 2 games of the IVL season. Leonel Conchola and Jose Fernandez added touchdowns in the third quarter after the Bulldogs built a 14-0 halftime lead. And the 5th Kxo touchdown came on an interception by Conchola that he took 50 yards for the pick 6. The final there, Kxo 35, Southwest 0. And in the Desert League, the Holtville Vikings became the lone 9-0 team in the Valley as they shut out Palo Verde 38-0 at Burger Field in Holtville. Quarterback Alonso Cuevas completed 12 of 14 passes for an even 200 yards and a touchdown to Juan Carlos Castillo. And Raul Briseño converted an option pass for a touchdown to Alan Carrillo to face the Vikings. Carrillo ended up with 5 catches for 106 yards, and Castillo added 4 receptions for 89 yards. Enrique Armas rushed for 92 yards, and Hector Sanchez added a rushing touchdown as well for the Vikings. And the other Desert League game was a big one up in Calipatria as the Hornets snapped a 10-game losing streak to the Vincent Memorial by beating the Scots 20-6 at Veterans Field. The last time the Hornets defeated the Scots in Calipatria was way back in 2011. So a big win for the Hornets up north. Quarterback Dominic Hawk rushed for 95 yards and scored all 3 Hornet touchdowns, bringing his season total to 26, amazingly. Added his scoring on a punt return and a kickoff return. He has scored 28 touchdowns this season for the Calipatria Hornets. Just had an amazing year. Patricio Carranza passed to Ricardo Vizcarra was the lone touchdown for Vincent Memorial. There is one team that did have the week off, and that's the Central Spartans, but they're in action in a big way this week. And here's our preview for this week. The Imperial Valley version of college football's Rivalry Week. The top IVL game pits the 7-2 Central Spartans visiting 8-1 Brawley. So you take on the Wildcats in the Bell game with the league title also on the line. Now, if Brawley wins in the game, they will be crowned outright champions. If Central wins, it could be a three-way tie for the title. If the Tigers can beat Southwest, it would be a three-way tie between the Wildcats, the Spartans, and the Tigers with identical 3-1 league records. Central has won the last 2 years of the rivalry and claimed IVL championships with those victories. Now, that game will be heard live on KXO Radio, 12:30 a.m., with Carol Buckley and John Driffle at Mike's side. They'll also be on the KXO YouTube channel and on KXORadio.com, beginning with the pregame at 6:45 on Friday night. The other IVL game will see the Imperial Tigers visit the Southwest Eagles in the 15th annual Johnny Romero Memorial Fireman Helmet Game, honoring the late Tiger and Eagle coach. The sudden passing, a little bit better than 15 years ago, has been greatly felt between both football programs. And an interesting thing to note, the last few years, both teams wear their home uniforms in that game. So it has something a little bit different than what everybody else does in the Valley. And it's pretty cool on a green background of grass to see all red and all purple. It's very, very cool. The Tigers will be in search of their seventh win in a row in that one over the Eagles. It ended the game 8-1 on the season. The Eagles have struggled this year and are in search of their first victory of the season. George Grijalva and I will be at Mike's side on that one. We'll be on KXORadio.com with our pregame also beginning at 6:45 on Friday evening. Now, the Desert League Championship also comes down to a game this week. This will be played on Thursday night as the 7-1 Hornets head to Burger Field in Holville Thursday in the Axe game to face the 9-0 Vikings, who have won the last 6 games in that rivalry and the last 11 of the last 12 in their annual rivalry. But this is a different Hornet team with their best record since Imperial coach David Shaw was there. In 2012, they recorded a 9-3 record at that time. Each team enters the game with 2-0 league records, and the title will be on the line in Holville on Thursday night. And the fourth rivalry game, it's a non-league game, but it's a big one. It's called the Battle of the Border. It'll feature 5-4 Calexico hosting 6-3 Vincent Memorial. The Scots ended a 2-game Bulldog win streak with a narrow 14-7 victory last year, and they'll meet up once again at Ward Field in Calexico. That should also be a great ball game. So that'll do it for lots of interesting and impactful games in the Valley this week after some big ones last weekend.
Well, it's been a great year for football, and Mickey, you and I started talking about the upcoming Axe game probably 8 weeks ago.
I think a lot of people have. Once the Hornets won and won again, and all of a sudden after 4 games they're unbeaten, then you're thinking, now this is going to be a pretty good game. They suffered the one loss to Army Navy, but rebounded out, and they've won out since then. So they're going to be tough on the field. Holville has just been dynamite all season long, so it's going to be a tough road to hoe for the Hornets this week. But they've got a shot at it, and it'll be an interesting thing to see what happens Thursday night in Holville.
And to remind everybody, when it comes to the Bell game, records don't really mean anything. Those young men show up to play football.
Peggy and I, we go to church in Brawley, and I was talking to one of the gentlemen there, and he said the exact same thing. He said, when those two teams play, it doesn't matter what's happened through the season. It's the Bell game, and it's important. And it'll be a huge crowd and a lot of noise. And I was fortunate to cover 6 Bell games, 3 on KXO and 3 on KROP back in the old days. And to watch those games, they were always a highlight every year to be able to call those balls.
Well, and everybody, Carol Buckley found the 1921 Bell game on acetate. Now, we don't have the whole game, but we have the first half.
Oh, how neat. That would be cool to be able to hear some of that again and hear some of the names being played on that game.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll make an effort to try and get that on the YouTube channel after we survive this Bell game.
Oh, that'll be great. I'd love to hear it.
All right, everybody. Hey, this has been KXO Radio AM 1230 with Mickey Dale. And this promises to be the football week to remember. Take care, and we'll catch you next week.
This is our rivalry week. Here we go.
All right.